Someday, in the not-so-distant future, it happens. The moment you realize you're ready for anything. Get a degree in emergency management from Jacksonville State University and be ready for where you're going.
This is your Weather Xtreme video for March the 1st. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. Wow, we're into meteorological spring already. And of course, that also means the start of our spring severe weather season. So before I forget it, don't forget we have Storm Alert Extreme, the spring edition, coming up this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. at the Pelham Civic Complex. That's just off I-65 at exit 246 in Pelham, northern Shelby County. We're going to be conducting a basic storm spotter training class, and it should last from about 6:30 to 9 or so. We should be out of there by 9 o'clock. A gray morning across central Alabama as we see the Birmingham Skycam showing a deck of clouds, and actually it's cloudy over much of the state of Alabama, and we look down at Gulf Shores. They do have a few peaks at the sun there as the sun is rising this morning. There's a messy weather pattern across the central part of the country, all the way from Amarillo to about Baltimore and near New York. So a very, very messy weather pattern as that front marks the change between cold and warm and causing a lot of winter weather problems. Overall, in the upper atmosphere, we're seeing primarily a ridge over the central part of the country with a fairly deep trough, producing some rain over the Southwest U.S. and some welcome rain at that. I understand that, for example, at Phoenix, they have broken a 70-day rain-free streak. So, wow, 70 days. That's what, 2 months and 2 1/3 months. That's a long time without rain. And we're going to have a very progressive pattern ahead of us. Cold air is amassing up in the north central United States. You see some very significant cold values, minus 20s along the U.S.-Canadian border. Fortunately, temperatures not that bad across central Alabama. Now, we typically see morning lows this time of year are around the lower 40s or so, and we're running just a little bit above that, with temperatures running primarily in the mid and upper 40s this morning. The messy weather pattern, as I say, extends all the way from North Texas across the mid-Mississippi River Valley. All those rather pinkish and purple colors are winter weather advisories or warnings, and those kind of off greens are winter weather watches. So there's just a real mess along that cold front. Precipitation-wise, we're looking at some rain coming up here, and especially along the Gulf Coast over the next 5 days. So it looks like we're going to see some pretty good precipitation here. The Storm Prediction Center is not outlooking any specific areas for a slight risk of severe weather today, but they do have a C text for the possibility of some elevated thunderstorms in eastern Oklahoma and parts of Arkansas. There is a slight risk on day 2, that's tomorrow Sunday and into early Monday, across a good portion of Louisiana and eastern Texas. All right, the 06Z GFS model run this morning, and we'll focus primarily on the GFS, but I'll supplement it a little bit with the European, and we can see high pressure nosing its way across the southeastern U.S. and keeping the weather at bay for us for today as the moisture is off to our west. The front begins to settle closer on Sunday, as we can see that contrast with the warmer air over the southeastern U.S. with surface high pressure, and we can see the thickness lines just dropping off as we get into Missouri. And of course, with that, we have a relative position of a long wave trough over the eastern part of the country, but we have a fairly substantial shortwave trough that is moving through on Sunday, moving through the Texas Panhandle area. That trough is going to move very briskly across the southeastern U.S., but fortunately it does not seem to intensify much, so that is good. But what that's going to do is bring that front down into our area, keeping the cold air to our north. But look for Monday to be one of those kind of raw days where things are topsy-turvy, and that is that we have our high temperature for the day in the early morning hours, and the lows are going to be around midnight Monday night, and it looks like daytime temperatures will be primarily in the 40s and perhaps lower 50s across central Alabama. The pattern becomes a little less active as we flatten out and dampen out just a little bit on Tuesday, and that damped out pattern begins to change once again on Wednesday with the digging of a fairly substantial trough over the lee of the Rocky Mountains, and that trough is going to be responsible for a closed low, and it looks like we're going to see the development of a surface low in the Gulf of Mexico late Wednesday and into Thursday. By Thursday, we see that trough has dug in nicely over and into the vicinity of Lake Charles with a closed low over Louisiana. And so we're going to have to watch this. Now, right now, model soundings do not suggest that there's any kind of winter weather threat. However, this is the weather pattern. This is the setup that we often see in which we do get some winter weather precipitation. So we're going to have to be watching it. But as I say, right now, all the model soundings suggest that the warm layer will extend all the way up to the vicinity of about 750 millibars, so it looks like we shouldn't have any kind of serious winter weather threat, but we need to watch in case things change. And looking at the European, it's interesting that the European and the GFS at 132 to 138 hours are in very good agreement with the surface low positioned in the vicinity of Apalachicola, and the only difference that I can see primarily is that the European is just a tad stronger with the surface low, but it also keeps the 540 thickness and the cold air up over Kentucky and further north in the Ohio River Valley. So again, something we will need to keep our eye on. That moves briskly over into the southwest Atlantic on Friday, and that should take the weather with it, so that by Friday we should be seeing improving weather, and it looks like improving weather into Saturday with a fairly dry situation, even though we see a bit of a trough, but that keeps us relatively mild with the cold air primarily located across the Ohio River Valley and northward. By Monday, as we get out into voodoo country, we see that trough does sharpen up somewhat, but that takes the cold air primarily into the East Coast area, the Mid-Atlantic coast area. So it looks like we'll be kind of on the edge. So something in the vicinity of fairly typical values for us. When we get out to Friday the 14th, though, we see another substantial trough coming through the lower Mississippi River Valley. So that's another potential wet system. And then we have yet another one coming at us around the 16th as we head out to the end of the period here with a sharpening up trough once again on the lee of the Rockies that will be providing some mischief for us. Well, that'll do it for the Weather Xtreme video for this Saturday. Expect to have the next one posted first thing on Sunday morning around 7:30 or 8. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great Saturday and Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.